In this video, you're going to learn how to stop missing octaves on the piano in just 3 drills under 5 minutes with ARCT pianist, Jack Chen. Okay, Jack, before we start, why do people miss octaves on the piano?
A lot of it just comes down to not having the correct placement and also the correct way of hitting the octaves.
Right. Well, first of all, why don't we show them what octaves are?
So an octave is basically the span on the keyboard between two of the same notes. So what that means is, you say, for example, you take middle C, right? And then you find another C, the closest C to you, which is either up or down. Let's go up for this example, here. So this is an octave. Yeah, so the first drill that we should focus on is our hand shape reset. Okay. So what essentially that is taking your hands and making sure that you have the correct shape, form, and also posture as you're hitting the octaves. So what we want to do is sort of relax our fingers, have our fingers placed in a sort of curved but relaxed form, and then let our wrist and forearm do most of the movement. Okay. So the fingers themselves aren't actually doing anything.
Okay. What we mean by reset is we want to go back into a relaxed position so that we're not playing with our fingers.
Exactly.
Is there a way for them to check if they've properly resetted their hand position?
Yeah. So the first thing we can do is put your thumb, say, let's choose middle C, because that's a very easy note to find. Middle C, and then put your pinky on the next closest C. Okay. Which would be, we're going up, so an octave up. And now just sort of press down, like use I just force from your wrist and your forearm, just push down on that. Once you get used to that, then you can start, lifting your hand up and dropping it down, right? See how that feels. Make sure you're keeping your hand relaxed and your wrist and forearm is doing all the work right now. Okay. Yeah, so this leads us into our second drill, which will be our wrist bounce drill. Okay. So you know how we sort of lift our whole arm up, dropped it down like this?
Yes.
Slowly.
Yes.
Now for this drill, we can sort of, instead of just doing a very slow, gradual drop, we can do a more intentional sort of playing, where we use our wrist to bounce off the notes a little bit instead.
I see. Yeah. So our first drill was kind of like our arm was a lever coming up like this, up and down, with our hands relaxed, right? But now we're adding in a little bit of wrist bounce.
Exactly.
Okay, do you want to show us what that looks like?
Yeah. So it's just going to go like this.
Okay. What are we focusing on the wrist when we're playing this? Like, how much strength should we be using?
I'd say go light at first. Maybe use like 20-30% strength.
Right.
Just so you get the feel, right?
Okay.
You don't want to use too much strength because what we're focusing on in this particular exercise is control.
Okay, so that's the second drill. First drill was relaxing like a lever. Second drill is adding in our wrist to get that control of our wrist. But these 2 drills are not enough to play octaves.
That leads us into our third drill.
Okay.
Our third drill then will be doing that sort of same bounce, but now we're going to bounce across different notes. Okay. Right? We would call this like the landmark sort of drill. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose certain notes. Let's say C, G, and then higher C. Yep. Okay. So what we're going to do is now we're going to build octaves from these 3 notes. So first one, C, G, and then high C.
C, G, high C.
Yep. And now what we're going to do is we're going to sort of incorporate the bounce again and just go between them.
This is something I actually never really knew, because when I play octaves, my wrists are actually quite stiff when I play, right?
Right now we're doing the bounce at a lower volume and lower intensity, right?
Okay.
So it might feel like you're sort of just floating around. But if we want to increase the volume and intensity, right? I have a lot of accuracy doing this. So
that
now,
was quite stiff.
Yeah, your wrist became stiff again. If you watch mine, I'm like always going up and down.
So what is the benefit of going up and down comparing to like what I'm kind of doing with the stiff wrist here?
The thing is when you have a stiff wrist, your fingers are stiff, and then you're sort of relying on your fingers to find each part, which works, but again, like you said, it could impact your playing endurance. Right. But that's what I'm saying, if you can sort of open your hand, relax a little more, and let your wrist find the octave instead of using your finger to search out the notes.
So that's pretty much the third drill, right? To recap, our first drill was to use our wrist and forearm as a lever.
Yep. To keep and remember to have your hand shape settled down,
Relax,
in the proper,
yes, relax is
with
the
a little
main
bit of tension, so you have the shape memorized, but overall relaxed.
Right. And then the second point was to start adding in our wrist. So that's, we can lead into our third point, which was
Jumping between notes.
Jumping
essentially.
between
We call
notes.
it like jumping between landmarks, you can say.
right. If we want to move it to a little bit harder things, like if I'm struggling to play the entertainer, which is how do we apply this to a more advanced like section?
I mean, it's the same thing. The entertainer, there's like a middle note in there,
Yeah.
right? So what we want to do is take out the middle note first, have only the octaves, and then just bounce between them. Maybe do like a staccato first.
Okay, well, let's break this down as the final recap for them. They know how to practice drills, but when they're applying it to the song practice, how do they practice it?
If you're messing up on the octaves, right? That means there could be a variety of reasons. Maybe your hand shape was wrong at the start. You have to reset your hand shape, try to find the perfect hand shape for the octaves. It also could be that you're overshooting sometimes, right? You might be shooting a little too high, a little too low. That's just getting used to having your wrist bounce between the notes.
Right, but how do we practice this? But that makes sense. All right, let me see if I can play the entertainer now.
All right, give it a try.
I don't think it helped. Let me just put the octave. I think my left hand's also the problem.
Yeah, your left hand is making more. Your right hand is actually sounding okay, but your left hand is jumping around randomly.
Yeah, but that definitely feels like it feels much easier once I've relaxed.
Okay,
Alright,
understand. And
If
then
you
practice.
guys enjoy this video, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and check out the next video over here.